Today, I want to talk about a few important characteristics that I feel you need to build a business and just some of the things I feel like drive success behind the scenes, especially when you're doing it by yourself. As a solopreneur or solo business owner, I understand the challenges that come with running a business and just trying to do all the things just to stay afloat and be profitable. Because the goal of business is to make a profit, unless you're a nonprofit organization. But really, everyone is trying to build a life for themselves, build a business, and do something that they really truly love, or at least something that they enjoy. A lot of people have embarked upon this entrepreneurial journey or have moved into a space of wanting to work for themselves because they are tired of going to jobs that they don't enjoy and jobs that they don't love every day. Since the pandemic, a lot of people have moved into this space of wanting to work for themselves and wanting to do things outside of their 9 to 5 or outside of their corporate jobs. I'm not a business guru and I'm not a multi-million dollar brand. Okay. At least not yet, but I'm working on it and I am moving into that space. But I work with a lot of clients who are also in the same boat. They are solopreneurs or they're thinking about starting a business or they want clarity around what to do in order to start a business. Some of them have already started and they're just having trouble making consistent income and prioritizing what's important for them to be focusing on day to day. Because being a business owner is very different from working for someone. It's not the same mentality. Being an employee is different than running a business or being the founder or the CEO or the president of an organization. So it's a very different mindset, a very different way of being and how you approach your work every day. And I think this is a good topic to have because as a solopreneur, I understand that journey. I understand the challenges that it poses. I understand the things that come along with it, the good, the bad, the ugly, and all the in between. And I also have lots of friends who have businesses or who work for themselves. These are two different categories. They're not the same thing. And we'll get into that a little bit. But I also understand this space because I work it intimately. I have been in this space for a little while. I've actually had my business for quite some time. I started my business in 2016 officially. And when I started it, it was a part time thing. I was doing it on the side while I was working my corporate job. So I was working full time corporate, being a consultant, doing project management. And then I was coaching on the side or coaching, I would say intermittently, but that's when I started my business. And when I moved to Atlanta in 2015, that's when I really started to put things in place and lay the foundation for having my business and getting my business set up in the state of Georgia. So I do have some experience of working a job and having a business on the side, and then now being full time in my business. So I'll talk a little bit about that and just my take on it and the things that I have gone through. And I want to share some of that with you today. So, most of the time when we think about business, we see mostly the glamorous side, or we see business owners that have been going at it for a while and they appear to be doing really well. And a lot of times, what you see is the highlights, like the accomplishments or the awards or the things that they have done well or the accolades. But nobody really prepares you for all of the ups and downs that you're going to go through once you're in your business. There's a lot for you to consider if you have been thinking about going down this road. So I want to just share a few of those things with you today. Before we jump in, you already know, don't forget, grab your reflections worksheet so you can take notes on today's conversation and you can click on the link in the description to download it for yourself. It's free. Okay, let me just say this. Starting a business is easy for the most part, but the real work comes in when you start building, right? A lot of times when you're embarking upon a business or when you look at what it takes to start a business within your state, each state has different rules or regulations or requirements. But once you get like the base foundation of naming your business, registering it with the state, paying whatever fees you would need to get started, that's just the basis. That is just laying the foundation. But there's the next part, which is building, setting up your systems, getting your business in order, maybe creating your business plan, whatever it is that you need to do to make sure that you understand the function of your business and what type of business you have and setting it up for you to be successful. And I just want to clarify the difference between building a business and working for yourself are different. So solopreneurs and solo business owners are pretty much self-employed, meaning they work for themselves and they are responsible for themselves. It's very independent. So this can look like freelancing. It can look like being an independent contractor. It can look like having different jobs or working for other organizations independently. You have your own business and you are the sole employee of your business. It can look like that. It's a one-person business. Your income is directly tied to the hours that you work or the services that you provide. When you're building a business, that is more so when you are creating the company. You're creating an organization with the intention of scaling and growing the business. So maybe you are thinking about having employees at a certain point or contractors, independent contractors that work for you. It's building a company that can run with or without you. So that's just the basic definition and the difference between the two. So a lot of times when you are building a business or when you first start, you're starting off on that self-employment route, the solo business owner, the solopreneur. So when you are thinking about or contemplating starting a business, there are a few things that you need to consider. And these are things that I don't feel like people talk about. They talk about the tangible structural things that you need to have in place or the tactical things, but there are characteristics that I feel you need to understand and have within yourself in order to set yourself up to be in the best possible position for you to have longevity in this space. So I'm going to share with you just the things that I have learned and what I've been learning being on this journey of having my business. I've had my coaching practice, like I said, since officially 2016 is when I established my business. And it was between 2016 and 2020, I was continuing to do it part-time. 2020 is when I branched out, like I jumped and took the leap on my own to do it full time. And even when I did that, I worked for a coaching academy. So I was helping to run the programs in that business. I did some training. I taught classes. I ran the Facebook group. I did a lot of operational things. I was the director of operations and program management. So I was working that business while also building my own. And let me just tell you what I learned from that experience. It is very challenging to build two businesses at the same time. Although I was working in this other business, I wasn't really giving a lot of time and space to my business. So if you are thinking about doing this, you have to consider your time restraints. You have to consider what you are trying to build and creating space for yourself. And I think the mistake that I made on that journey was not putting my priorities of my business first. So I really haven't focused solely on my business until maybe like a couple of years ago is when I really was like, okay, I need to put 100% of time, effort, and energy into my business. It's not a bad thing. These are just lessons that I learned along the way. And what I learned from being in that organization, what I took away from it was that I have the ability, that I have the capacity, that I have the qualities that it takes to run a business, to build a business, and to do it on my own. So I'm going to share with you just a couple of things that I feel are important that you need to know and characteristics that you need to have in order for you to be successful and set yourself up too while you're building your business. First things first is discipline. Nobody is going to fire you if you don't show up to work. Right? When you go into your 9 to 5, if you don't show up, if you're late, if you don't do your tasks, if you don't get things done, there's going to be a problem. You're going to have performance issues. But when you have a business, discipline has to be key into how you show up because you have to be willing to show up even when you're not being pushed, even when you're not being held accountable. You are the person that holds yourself accountable. So you have to find the incentive in doing the thing that doesn't necessarily make money every day, but has to be done. Right? You have to figure out how you're going to keep yourself motivated to show up in your business as though it is a real business. You have to treat it like a real business. So I'll give you an example. This podcast that I'm doing, it doesn't make money for me yet. I don't have sponsors. I don't have ads or anything that generates revenue. This is definitely something that I put my time, my effort into. I even pour money into this to create the podcast. But I do it for a few reasons. Number one, it's a creative outlet for me. And it's my way of, being innovative and trying new things. I'm learning a lot through this process. And number two, it's a way for me to share my gift of gab and all my thoughts with the world this is my platform to do that. I really love conversations. I like talking about different things. I like exploring different topics. And so this is my take on the world and on how I view those topics. And then number three, it's just a way for me to market myself and to show people and potential clients who I am and how I think and how I work and those sorts of things so that they can decide if they want to work with me or not. Again, discipline. I just do this because this is what I said I was going to do. I am very much relying on myself to make sure that I get done what I need to get done. The other thing I feel is important is consistency. Consistency, consistency, consistency. It doesn't matter what the consistency looks like, whether it's every week, every month, every day. You have to decide, again, what you're going to do and how often you're going to do it. And you have to commit to that and be consistent. For example, I write to my email list every single week. Now, there have been days or times where I've not felt like doing it, but I've committed to it. And so therefore, I get up and I do it every single week. I've been doing it consistently since 2023, every single week, every single week. I don't believe I've missed a week since I started back in 2023. Now, I've had my list for quite some time. And there was a time where I ghosted my list, where I just stopped writing. I was writing emails consistently. And then I felt a little discouraged. It was like, well, does anybody care? Is anybody reading these emails? And I felt like, well, my list is super small. It doesn't really matter. So I stopped. And when I started again, I committed to myself that I was going to, at minimum, once a week, write to my list. So I can write to them more if I want to, but the once a week is the amount of time and the number that I committed to. And I didn't necessarily announce it to anyone. It was more so for me. I know that I send out my weekly email on Tuesday morning every single week. That is just the commitment that I've made. So are there days where I don't feel like doing it? Yes. Are there times where I have no idea what to say? Absolutely. But do I get up and do it anyway and show up? Yes, I do. So again, nobody's forcing me to do it. Nobody's holding me accountable. Nothing's going to happen if I don't send the email out, but I know that it didn't go out. And then if there are people on my list who are reading my emails and looking forward to what I have to say, they're going to be looking for that email. This is just what I think is important, consistency. And also it's me showing up, doing the thing that I said I was going to do, because that's in me. I'm very old school. My word matters. So if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. The next thing to consider or to make sure that you have in place is tenacity and perseverance. There are days when I may not feel like doing something, or I may not feel like showing up, or I may not feel like posting, or whatever it is that I'm doing to promote my business, talk about my business, even with the podcast. There are going to be days that you want to quit. There are so many times I've questioned, what am I doing? Does anybody even care about what I'm doing? Is anybody paying attention to what I'm doing? And it's going to be challenging. There are going to be hard days where you question everything about why you even started in the first place, which we'll get to that a little bit later. But you have to keep going even when it gets hard. Even when there are no clients, even when it looks like those things behind the scenes aren't working, you have to think about other ways to try to approach your business, other ways to attract clients, other ways to collaborate with people, other ways to build your business, working with people, networking, building those relationships. You have to find other ways and you have to try different things. You have to be willing to learning new things. You have to be willing to try something that you haven't done before, because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So that's not what we're doing. We're not doing insanity. We are going to try things, see if they work. And if it doesn't, you have to be willing to change. You have to be willing to pivot quickly and do something different and try something different. You have to promise yourself that you won't give up and you're not going to quit until you've exhausted all the possibilities, all the opportunities, every single thing that you can possibly do. That is the commitment that you need to make to yourself. The next thing that is very important is leadership. Calling yourself a CEO or a founder alone doesn't make you a leader. You should already be showing leadership qualities and leadership abilities. You can be doing this in your everyday life, in your job, with your family, with your friends. Showing up as a leader means that you're taking initiative. It means that you're solving problems. It means that you're taking accountability for your actions. Leaders lead by example. They show up no matter what their title is. They do the thing no matter how unglamorous it looks or no matter how hard it is. They roll up their sleeves, right? When you have your own business, you are doing all the things in the beginning. You're making copies, you're writing proposals, you are figuring out your accounting, you're trying to understand your sales, you're understanding your marketing, all the things that come with your business until you can hire out or you can get help to support you in those roles. But you have to be the leader. So you're making decisions, right? You have to be able to make decisions. You have to be confident in what you're deciding. And it's okay if something doesn't go your way. You have to pick yourself up, get back on the horse, so to speak, and just keep going. Try something different. It's cute, right? To be the CEO, or it feels good to be like, I'm the founder of this, or I'm the VP of that. That's great. But at the end of the day, make sure you show up as a leader every day by showing those qualities. So if you don't have those leadership qualities in your life right now, you're not going to all of a sudden develop them. You have to be very intentional about what you're doing in your business. And you want to make sure that you're showing up in your business because you set the tone. So as you hire people, as you work with other people, they're watching you. They're watching how you show up. They're watching how you present in meetings. They're watching if you're on time to things. They're watching, again, how you work. And you also want to understand what your values are because you want to make sure you're aligning with other business owners or you're attracting clients that understand your values and have the same values. So you're on the same trajectory. You don't have to have the biggest and baddest title in order to be a leader. But if you are showing those qualities, taking initiative, taking accountability, thinking about the whole, like what is the best for the greater good, those are leadership qualities. And those are characteristics that will let you know that, okay, I'm on the right track. This is something that I can venture out and do on my own. And then one of the very, very critical things before you even move forward is understanding your why. You have to understand why you are doing this business. What is your reason for starting your business? And it has to be bigger than just you. And it has to be more than just wanting to make money. Because let me be clear. Yes, if you have a profit business, the whole goal is to make profit. If you have a business, you want to make money. That is a given. But outside of that, why are you building your business? Because if money is the only motivator, you're not going to last long. You have to find other reasons or a bigger why in order for you to be successful in your business, because there are going to be days where you're not making any money. There are going to be times where it's going to take longer for things to pick up speed, for clients to come in, for whatever product or service you're building. It's going to take time. So in those lulls, you have to figure out what is going to keep you going. Because if it's money, shut it down. There's plenty of other ways to make money. So you have to figure out what else is going to keep you inspired, keep you motivated to keep going. And just to wrap this up, I just want to share a couple of things that I feel are things that you should be aware of and things that were very helpful to me as I started out with my business. I mentioned earlier that when I first started my business, I was working a full-time job. I was working full-time. I had been doing that for like 20 plus years, corporate consulting, management consulting, project management, lots of different jobs in different agencies, different corporations. I've worked a lot in financial services, telecommunications, healthcare, and then in the government sector, I've worked a lot with different agencies within the federal government. So I had a pretty nice nest egg, which leads to my point. You should make sure that you have money, savings. When you start your business, you want to start yourself up. You want to start off on a good foot. You want to have a little bit of a cushion because there's going to be weeks and months when you're not having any income coming in. You're not going to have clients, or you may just go through lull periods of just low times, or you may have seasons in your business where you're not making as much revenue or as much income as you normally are. So you have to understand the seasons of your business as well. You have to understand when is a good time, like when is your business thriving and when is it a lull, and you want to prepare for those low times. And even in a time right now, like with the economy and with people losing jobs, you have to understand the climate of what's going on around you. A lot of people are not spending money right now. They are not in the position to spend a lot. And even when people are spending, they're being a lot more critical and a lot more intentional about what they're spending it on and how much they're spending. So it is challenging right now. So if you're attracting clients, depending on where you are, whatever customers you're working with, you have to be very specific and clear about what your messaging is, but that's a whole nother point. What I'm trying to make to you is you need to have a cushion for how you will sustain yourself during those times of low moments or during those times where you're not having as much income coming in. And also too, it's okay to get a job. Let's just talk about that. It's okay to get a job or it's okay to have a job. I just told you that I worked my business that I'm working right now. I was part-time. I was doing this on the side. Now I'm coaching full-time. I'm doing full-time training and facilitation. I'm also doing consulting, but I'm not going to lie to you. It may be time for me to get a part-time job because in full transparency, I'm in the process of doing that right now because prices are rising. People, like I said, are tighter with their spending, and this is a tough time for everyone. Don't be ashamed to fund your dream or to take a job while you build. I know a lot of people who have done this, and you may have to do it more than one time. Like I told you, when I first left corporate, I was working for a coaching academy. That was an opportunity that came to me. I wasn't looking for it. It just was presented to me and I took advantage of it. It was a very successful, I would say, like collaboration. And I actually learned a lot from doing that. It helped me understand a lot more about my business. I was doing that right when I left corporate. So it was another job. So it's okay to work another job so that you can fund the things that you need to do. You still have to take care of yourself. You still have to fund your life. You still have to live, right? You need your basic necessities. So do not be ashamed or afraid to get a job. I know there's a lot of controversy going on right now. I don't know if you're aware of Tabitha Brown, but she made a post recently and people are in an uproar. She basically said to those entrepreneurs right now, if they're struggling, if you're not making money in your business, like it may be time for you to go get a job. And people were split down the middle. Some people were like, how dare you? How dare you say to go get a job? Look at all these people who have just lost their jobs and people are looking for jobs. And then there were other people who were like, yes, it just may be time to get a job. We're not telling you to push your dream to the side. We're not telling you can't keep going. It's just you may need to fund your dream in the meantime so that you're feeling comfortable, so you're not desperate as you're working and building your business. You want to make sure that you are in a good space. So that's a very important one. I know money is an issue. Capital, people need capital. You need money to make money in your business. If you've ever watched Shark Tank, when people come on there, they're pitching their businesses because they're trying to get capital. They're trying to get money. They're trying to get people to invest in their business. It takes money to make money, but you also want to make sure you're setting yourself up in a good position so that you're not stressed out because you don't have enough money coming in. The other thing I want to point out is you have to decide how you're going to measure progress. This is very key. We oftentimes have this big goal, this big vision, right? You want to make a certain amount of money in your business, or you want to build a nonprofit or a foundation, or you want to create whatever it is you're creating. As you're building your business, you need to understand what your milestones are for your progress. You have to know when to keep going and when it's time to call it a day and shut it down. So, for example, is it a certain number of clients that you need to be having each month? Is it a certain skill set that you need to be acquiring? Maybe it's certifications that you need to get. So as you're learning or training and getting that education, those are milestones. Is it a business setup or how you set your business up, or is it documentation? So little milestones along the way, little wins that let you know like, hey, I'm moving in the right direction, or yes, this is a good thing. So is it a number of contracts? Is it a number of, partnerships? Is it a certain dollar amount? Whatever that is, you need to decide what that's going to look like so that you know that you're moving in the right direction. And you want to make sure you have a benchmark. If you're looking at each quarter, what did you do last quarter? What's different this quarter? How is the business moving along? Even when you're working on things behind the scenes and even when it feels like things aren't moving, things can be moving. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be a tangible client or a customer, but it could be, hey, I needed to get these documents in order, or hey, I needed to make sure my business plan was solid, or hey, I needed to make sure I apply for this grant or whatever it is. You have to have those things in order behind the scenes in your business. You want to make sure your financing, your accounting, like all the things are set up. So these are the not glamorous parts of business that people don't really talk about. Those are just the tangible things that you need to set up. But you also need to make sure you understand what is the progress that you're making and how are you going to judge against that? How do you know that you're making progress? Only you can decide that, but it's just something to think about as you're going forward. And then you need to surround yourself with the right people. This is key. The right people in your circle and be very specific about who you allow in that space. So think about the 5 people in your inner circle and ask yourself, are they adding value to your life and to your business? Are they helping to contribute, regardless if it's you're working with them or not? But even in your personal life, are they taking away from you or are they adding to you? Having support while you build a business is crucial. You need to have people who understand what you're trying to do. Make sure that the person or the persons that are around you, you can confide in and they understand what you're doing. They don't necessarily have to believe in the full vision or get it, but they need to be able to provide that support in the way that you need it. So think about how you need support because not everybody's going to get it. And especially when you're in those low times or those lulls, that's when it's going to be very critical for you to have the right people in your corner. You want people that are going to support you. You want people that are going to encourage you. You're going to want people that get it. And not everybody is building a business. And I would just say this, and I know people are going to feel some way about this, but you have to be careful who you tell about what you're doing in your business, especially to people that do not have a business, that are not on their own journey trying to build something. It's very hard to talk about building a business with somebody who's working a 9 to 5 who just doesn't get it. I'm not saying that all people working in their 9 to 5s are not going to get it. I'm just saying be very careful about who you share that information with because you want to, again, make sure you have people in your corner that are going to uplift you and that are going to encourage you and that are going to cheer you on, not people who are going to make you question what you're doing or that are going to put seeds of doubt in your head or in your mind. Let me just say this. I don't know how many people are going to say this or how many people are going to tell you the truth about this, but there are going to be so many days that you want to quit. If I had a dollar for the number of times that I felt discouraged, where I said, I don't know what I'm doing, why am I even doing this? I would probably have a nice little nest egg. I don't think I'd be a millionaire, but I'd have a nice little nest egg. A lot of what you do is going to be building. Many things that you do will not make money. But even in those instances, you have to decide, okay, what is the return on investment for you? Are you bartering? Are you doing things to gain leverage in your business? Are you doing things to promote your business? Even though they're not bringing in money right away, it will take time for that money to accumulate. But in those instances, you need to find what is going to motivate you, what is going to inspire you, because there are going to be days where you're just going to want to give up and quit. I kid you not. I've had them so many times. And especially when I first started, I just felt very lost. I didn't know what I was doing. I was trying to follow all the trends. I was trying to sign up for all the courses and do all the things. And I still felt like I was ending up back in the same spot. I was still not knowing what to do or how to get going. And you also have to decide like what your model is for your business. Are you going to be on virtual business? Are you going to be in-person business or brick and mortar business? So all those things, I'm not going to go down into all those details because that's not the point of what I'm trying to share today. I just wanted to point out some of the characteristics and things that I feel would be helpful and beneficial for anybody who is already embarking upon this path or just someone who is considering being a solo business owner or wanting to be a solopreneur or wanting to have a dream of building a business. I would just say be willing to invest smartly in your business. Again, it takes money to make money, but you don't necessarily have to pour your thousands of dollars into programs, into courses, into things that don't make sense for you. Because you're going to hear that, oh, it's marketing, you need strategy, you need processes, you need systems. And yes, and yes, and yes, you need all those things. But it's more of where are you right now? What do you need to be doing right now? Where do you need to be focusing your time, your energy, your attention right now? Because you may not be at the place in your business where you're ready for those things. And for you to invest thousands of dollars in something that just doesn't make sense, you can save that money and put it towards something that you really need right now that's more beneficial. You want to make sure you're making smart business decisions and that you're investing smartly. And also think about the energy that you put out and what you want to get back. So you can't be out here wanting people to pay for your time, your energy, or your services, but not be willing to pay it forward to someone else. So just keep that in mind as well. Think about what you're trying to do and the type of clients you want to attract, and think about, are you being that client to someone else? So that's all I wanted to say. I know that the reality of having a business is hard. It's just hard. It's not a glamorous thing, especially at the beginning. There are lots of fails along the way, lots of challenges, lots of bumps, lots of bruises, lots of what am I doing, lots of confusion. But in the end, hopefully you are building a business that you feel proud about. Hopefully you're doing something that you feel passionate about. and something that brings purpose into your life. Cause I think that's the main thing. You want to do something that makes you feel good, or you want to make sure you're highlighting your strengths or doing things that highlight your gifts or your natural abilities. And I think that's the most important thing. Is like we're moving into a space where we need to be focusing on what we do well, what we enjoy doing, and how we can use that as a skill to build something of our own, not just necessarily going with the flow and doing what everybody else is doing, but it's okay to do something for yourself. And also, it's okay if you're not that person. You may listen to this and say, Sharana, this is great, but I don't think I am self disciplined, or I don't believe that I have those leadership skills right now. And that's okay. Not every person is meant to build a business and have their own thing. But I would say this, just consider, what are the things that you do well? What are your strengths, or what are areas that you feel interested in that make you feel excited? Because maybe you can have a little, like a side hustle or something that you build on the side, right, while you work your job. But I do think it is important for you to consider what are your other options are, and thinking about how you can have some form of self-employment, whether it's freelancing or you can be a contractor. You can offer up whatever your skills or services are to someone and make some money on the side if that's what you choose to do. If you don't want to do this full time, because I know building a business and being in this space is not for everybody, and that's okay. So I'll just say this, promise yourself that you're going to keep going. Make sure that you look at those progress milestones and decide, okay, this is a yes, I'm going to keep going. This is a no. And I would check in with yourself very periodically, maybe every year, every 6 months, just say how you're doing, how you're feeling mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Hopefully you have a spiritual practice or something that you believe in that keeps you going. But I would say make sure that, you take yourself seriously, because if you don't take yourself seriously, nobody else is going to take you seriously. And no one's going to buy into your dream more than you. So always remember that. That's all I have for today. Let me know your thoughts. Are you already a solopreneur? Are you a solo business owner? Are you thinking about going down this route? What are some of the areas you find hard about running a business or working for yourself if you are already in this space? I'd love to hear your thoughts. So leave me a comment and tell me what you think.